There's a story to be told, a future to behold. There is more to who we are than what they hear. We have love within our soul, fire in our bones. We've got everything it takes to make it here. There's much more within our soil, more than just our oil. We can grow the food to feed the whole world square. Agriculture is the key. There's treasure in the trees. The time is now, the land is green, wealth is here. This is our nation, this is our land. Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, wealth is here. There are 200 billion dreams. Any one of these is able to begin a spark and change the world. There's innovation everywhere, from Aba to Ife to Kaduna. The land is green, the wealth is here. Yeah, this is our nation, this is our land. Yeah. Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, the wealth is here.
If you take a look around, from the north to south, there are opportunities to make it here. But if all you ever dream is to go overseas, tell me how you'll ever know that wealth is here. Oh, yeah,
This is our nation, this is our land. Oh, Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, the wealth is here. So pass on the baton, pass on the torch. Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, the wealth is here. Oh yeah. So this is our nation, this is our land. Oh yeah. Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, wealth is here.
The Business of Agriculture Masterclass is back, and this time it's all about you. We understand how talk can look easy but become daunting with practice, and that is
Hello,
exactly our
good
focus for
morning.
this year. Agric in Practice. 3 days, 9 sessions, 20 plus speakers, 8 value chains. Join Agric experts from September 27th to 29th, 2022, as they discuss the best practices for maximum results in your agric venture, answer critical questions about the specific challenges you face, and teach you how to tackle those challenges to achieve more profit for your business. What's more amazing? The masterclass is free and virtual, so you can join from wherever you are. All sessions will be streamed live on Facebook and YouTube. Visit www.businessofagriculture.org to register for the Business of Agriculture Masterclass today. This is brought to you by the Private Sector Advisory Group of the UN SDG Fund.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the Business of Agriculture Masterclass 2.0. I'm really happy to have you here. And on this show this morning, we'll be discussing the practice of animal husbandry. I want to believe that you can hear me and you can also see me clearly. Is there a way that I can confirm if you can hear me and if you can see me? Brilliant. Thank you so much. So once again, welcome. This morning, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we will be looking or we will be discussing animal husbandry in Nigeria, and perhaps we'll get a few comments on global trends as well. Livestock farming in Nigeria, as you know, includes pigs, snails, and the related sub niches within this area. Unfortunately, I forgot to introduce myself. My name this morning, or my name is Sayu Mokurari, and I am your moderator for this morning. Okay, so livestock farming in Nigeria is acclaimed, I would say, from reports and varied sources, particularly on the internet, to be a very profitable industry. And its development, it is said, depends on two major factors: the availability of raw materials, as well as technologies that should be adopted or are adopted for the use in production. I will not overflog this, but I want you to be in high spirit and very expectant. We have some really seasoned professionals who have plied their trade. Some have gone into research in this area out of passion, some basically to earn a livelihood. We have an list or an array of those panelists, and they'll be speaking to these areas this morning. I hope that you have, or I hope that participants have questions already that they have brought to this session. And it is expected that in the course of this session, we will take those specific questions and we'll address them. The session this morning is for you. This masterclass is all about you, and it's not to be led by us. We're just here to guide and curate the discussion. But we want so much of the content that we'll be discussing today to come from you. In that vein, I'm expecting that you curate your questions and you get them ready, even as I begin to prompt my panelists to get ready to be showed on here live. Thank you so much, and let's take a short break now. Okay, welcome back. On the panel this morning, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me a few gentlemen and a lady. And I'm going to introduce them to join me on this session right away. So, before we go ahead, I have the honor to introduce, just a second, hold on. Our first panelist, in the person of Mr. Winston P. Eputu. I hope that I get that name correctly. If I did not, please permit me. I'm still practicing. Mr. Eputu is an agribusiness executive that is committed to food security. Mr. Eputu, through his role as executive director at Island Agro Industries Development Company Limited, is engaged in ethical production, processing, and selling of food products and other agricultural commodities in Nigeria. He brings valuable contributions to stakeholders by providing nourishment to them as well as other consumers. It is my singular honor, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome here Mr. Winston P. Eputu. I hope that I got that correctly this time. Mr. Eputu, we're happy to have you here.
Thank you very much, Sayum. It's good to be here. And good morning to our viewers.
Good morning. Okay. While we let Mr. Ekutu take a breather and settle in, it is also my honor and my privilege to introduce the next panelist in the person of Dr. Amina Zana Ibrahim. Dr. Zana, ladies and gentlemen, is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Gambara Nigeria Limited. Dr. Zana is the brain behind the popular Amira yogurt. I hope that we know Amira yogurt, as well as Amira Fura, which is a household name in the North in particular, a business she has run for over 18 years. We welcome you on here, Dr. Ibrahim. We are happy to have you. Can you see and can you hear?
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Okay. You look very distant. Is it possible to have us see your face a bit more clearly? Thank you. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the next panelist is Dr. Femi Suleiman. Dr. Femi is the Director of Technical Operations at L&Z Silade Agro Park. And Dr. Femi, we're happy to have you here if you're here already. I can see him. Dr. Femi Suleiman. Okay. I cannot see Dr. Femi Suleiman here at this time, but we'll just go ahead and he will join as soon as internet connectivity, which I think is the problem, clears. So welcome, Dr. Zana Ibrahim, and welcome, Mr. P. Ekutu. I'm going to curate this discussion, but before we dig deeper, I want to also let you know that this masterclass is particularly, or it's focused on the stakeholders. So it's really not about us this morning, about the knowledge and the wealth of knowledge that we sit on. I would prefer that we take questions from the participants or from the viewers and all stakeholders who are connecting to us this morning or connecting with us this morning. So that will be the strategy. But in the meantime, Dr. Zana Ibrahim, it's amazing to see the number of years that you've put in, in this industry. I would like to ask, what led, or what was the trigger that led you to beginning this business or to identifying this niche? You can tell us that, in another couple of minutes. Say what.
Come again.
What was the trigger? Perhaps I'm just assuming also that you may have wanted or have a passion for agriculture. But what directed or what triggered you into niching in fura, in yogurt, and
Well, it just started as me wanting to do my thing, my business. And yogurt is something I enjoy very well. I love the product. And I just wanted to have it every day. So I went to learn how to do it and then started the business. So it started with just me loving the product in the first place, to take it personally, and then having my business second. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much for that. It's very important. The reason why I asked this question is sometimes people hear so much something, people complain so much about gaps in certain industries, but they never know that they can just right there convert that into a business. So our listeners to be able to know that there are varied triggers that lead people into certain businesses. If you are someone who loves animal protein
You,
and find
you
it
are
difficult to
breaking.
get,
So very well. Can you come again, please? I can't hear you very well.
can you hear me now?
Hello?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me as well?
Yeah, can you come again with the question? I cannot hear you very well.
Okay, I think you answered my question. Was saying I was saying that sometimes people are passionate about certain subject matters, or they encounter a lot of gaps in certain, or even in their quest to get certain items. But they never do know that right there is an opportunity for them to enter the market and try to provide solutions to the very things that are posing problems to them. And that is the reason why I asked this question, in hope that if their listeners today or their listeners on this program at the time, they are exposed to the varied ways that people, go into business. It can be out of a pain point. It can be because you have a passion for it. It can be because you find doing that particular thing pleasurable. And I'm saying that that's the reason why I asked that question. If you can hear me now, your response was satisfactory, and we're going to move on. So now, Mr. Ekutu, I also want to ask you the same question. What triggered your entry into this particular niche?
Okay, thank you very much, Sai. I found myself in the agribusiness space, I would say, rather unconsciously. Funny enough, at some point in my life, I found a diary where I had written that at some point I'm going to go into farming. So somewhere along the line, something had been tilting me towards that aspect. Now, I started off my entrepreneurship journey as a person, as an adult, running a restaurant. And in the course of running that business, I found the gap in the supply of chicken, which was a major input for us at the time. So we would most often place an order and wait for a week, sometimes 2 weeks, before we get our supply. So that got me thinking, maybe I could actually start off growing my own chicken to use for the restaurant. So it was that little thought. Before that, when I was much younger, uh, I used to be involved in getting connected a buyer to a seller for eggs. So it was such a coincidence. So this time I started off with 50 broilers in the backyard. And I'd say the rest, I'd say, could be history because we went on from that. And at some point, we found that we were growing what was enough for us. And we started selling to other restaurants around where I where we operated in the city of Abuja. And then we got a space somewhere in Kuje where we continued the broiler production. And then after a while, we started off doing egg production. And right now, we are more into egg production than we are into broiler production because currently, our broiler production is about 500 to 1,000 every month. But the eggs, we do almost 100 crates of eggs every day. So that's where we are now.
Okay. I thank you so much, Mr. Ekutu. The internet, fluctuated there, but pretty much I was able to hear, and I hope that our point in this space or in any space whatsoever, it is what do you call that now? It is a pointer to the fact that you can come in and produce or provide, or bridge that gap and provide excellent services in that particular niche to the ecosystem. Thank you so much. Before we continue, I can see Dr. Femi Suleiman. Dr. Femi, we're happy to have you here. Can you hear us? Can you see us? Dr. Femi, are you there? Okay, we'll come to that. I can also see that Dr. Zana is not here. Okay, I can see her now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you're following and I hope that it's making sense. We're just building up, and be assured that you're going to have a swell time this morning. Before we continue, let's take a breather and let's go on a very short break. Thank you. Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen, to the practice of animal husbandry. Questions together, as we earlier said. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I'm going to again Dr. Amina Zana Ibrahim. Dr. Mrs. Amina Ibrahim, would you say that animal husbandry is a profitable niche of agribusiness? In your own experience in particular, is it profitable? I know that say that this business is profitable, but now we want to hear from what we call the mouth. Is it a profitable venture? Has it been a profitable venture? Thank you.
Yes, animal husbandry and especially dairy, where I'm in, is very profitable. It is a very profitable business right from the onset up to now, and I've been in this business for 18 years. It's a very viable business. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. The internet
I
is
said it's a
getting
very
in the way,
profitable
but we can
business.
hear you.
It is a very profitable business. It's a $30 billion industry. A lot of opportunities exist in this business. In fact, dairy imports to Nigeria is estimated about 1.3 billion naira. That means if you cross the border,
did you say dairy importing to Nigeria?
is estimated at $1.3 billion, according to the Bureau of Statistics. So there's a huge demand and supply gap within the Nigerian economy, and so a lot of people can queue in. And even in the African content, Nigeria only produces about 13% of the dairy demand.
I'm afraid.
And in the global chain of the livestock, I'm talking about livestock, dairy in particular, where I am. I practice dairy, I do yogurts. It's just a minute part of the dairy industry, the industry I play in. And there are so many things. You have the meat, you have the milk, then you have the yogurt, you have the cheese. You can do organic farming, organic fertilizer using dairy products. So there's a lot of opportunities in this business, and the demand is growing. It's big and it is still growing. So people can come in at any time. There's a lot of money in the business that is yet untapped. The industry is untapped, especially here in Nigeria, and there's a lot of opportunities for people to come in. Yes. Hello. Hello.
Our moderator seems to be off. The network has not been very friendly
Yeah.
to her. But
Yes.
I think I got most of what you said regarding the dairy business. Where's the business located? Where you operating from?
We are operated here in Abuja, located in Abuja, Idu Industrial. That's where our factory is.
Okay. Okay. Oh,
Okay. I got lost out. I'm back here now.
Welcome back.
Okay, thank you.
welcome back.
Yes, the internet connection is so poor, particularly from your end, and then my got the bug as well. Mr. Ikutu, Mr. Ikutu, Mr. Ikutu, Mr. Ikutu. Wow. Okay. Can anyone hear me? I can hear anyone.
I'm with you, man.
Mr. Ikutu, are you there? Dr. Zana, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So I was saying that just by the time I got back on, you were saying something. Had you wrapped that up?
I haven't really. I said you were asking whether the business is profitable. Is that? Can you come
And
back with the
hear
question?
you.
Can you come back with the question?
It was We're asking if the practice of animal husbandry is profitable in Nigeria, particularly, with your experience.
Okay. Now, I produce yogurt. It is a very profitable venture, and the demand and supply gap is estimated within Nigeria for $1.3 billion annually. Amount of dairy imports in Nigeria. So there is a lot to do. You can rear the make money from the meat and the ranch. You can make the milking. You can do you could also do into hide and skin, into organic. Is very profitable. From the beginning up to now, I've been in the business for 18 years. I can tell you that it can compete with any business model. as the population is growing, so people are welcome into the business. They can come and yes.
Can you hear me, Sayo?
There appears to be a lot of network this morning. So I think that Dr. Ibrahim has. We're going to summon this. Okay. So, Mr. Ikutu, because you can hear me, and I think that the connection between us is effective, I would like that you answer, or you provide us comments with respect to profitability in this, going by your experience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to confirm that you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Now, in terms of profitability, I'll say that the agribusiness is quite profitable, especially when it is done on a large scale. It's something that the economics of scale plays a large role in. If you are going to raise, for example, if you want to start a farm, because I've seen some questions online, I reckon that most of the people we are talking to are people who are aspiring to go into agriculture. And as we know, it is a hugely capital intensive business. And one may be tempted to say, I want to start small. And so you now have people who will get a small space and put 500 birds and say they want to start small. And for such persons, I'll tell you that that kind of startup will be stressful because you would use just about the same manpower for 500 as you would use for 8,500. The space, yeah, you may require a larger space, but you see, the capital cost will be, you would sink that money in, but the running cost will swallow you. So is it profitable? The answer is yes. That largely depends on the scale you are operating in.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So I would, in my
There's a story to be told, a future to behold. There is more to who we are than what they hear. We have love within our soul, fire in our bones. We've got everything it takes to make it here. There's much more within our soil, more than just our oil. We can grow the food to feed the whole world square. Agriculture is the key. There's treasure in the trees. The time is now, the land is green, wealth is here. This is our nation, this is our land. Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, wealth is here. There are 200 billion dreams. Anyone of this is able to begin a spark and change the world. There's innovation everywhere, from Abba to Ife to Kaduna. The land is green, the wealth is here. Yeah, this is our nation, this is our land. Yeah. Nigeria is ours. We is our nation, this is our land. Oh, yeah, Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, wealth is here. There's a story to be told, a future to behold. There is more to who we are than what they hear. We have love within our soul, fire in our bones. We've got everything it takes to make it here. There's much more within our soil, more than just our oil. We can grow the food to feed the whole world square. Agriculture is the key. There's treasure in the trees. The time is now, the land is green, wealth is here. This is our nation, this is our land. Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, wealth is here. There are 200 billion dreams. Anyone of this is able to begin a spark and change the world. There's innovation everywhere, from Abba to Ife to Kaduna. The land is green, the wealth is here. Yeah, this is our nation, this is our land. Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, the wealth is here.
If you take a look around from the north to south, there are opportunities to make it here. But if all you ever dream is to go overseas, tell me how you'll ever know that wealth is here. Oh, yeah, oh.
This is our nation, this is our land. Oh, Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, the wealth is here. So pass on the baton, pass on the torch. Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, the wealth is here. Oh yeah. So this is our nation, this is our land. Oh yeah, Nigeria is ours. We have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, wealth is here.
There's nothing as horrible as internet. Hello, hello. I'm ready to be back here, and this time I can hear even myself. Hopefully, the internet serves us this time. Mr. Winston Ekutu, I'm happy to have you back here as well.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Can you hear me?
Brilliant. I was holding my breath. So now, ladies and we're going to go right in to the next thing that I would like to say, an analysis of the ecosystem. What are the options, Mr.
Okay.
Ekutu, in this value chain? So the value chain, I mean the animal husbandry practice of agriculture. What are the options in the entire value chain? Do I necessarily need to be the one breeding cows? Do I necessarily need to be the one, what's this one? This one's that hatch chickens. Do I need to breed chickens? Do I need to be producing? What else can I do what are the options for people who are technology enthusiasts, for people who have money? What are the options in the entire ecosystem, the entire value chain? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, the agribusiness value chain is extremely broad. And when you look at animal husbandry, as you mentioned, there are several aspects of it. And you need not play in all of them for you to maximize the benefits. In Lagos Business School, there was a mantra that we came up with that the closer you are to the ground, the less money you may have left after you have done everything that you have to do. So there is let's look at cattle. My experience, I've not really been in the cattle rearing business. But if we look at the cattle aspect, so there is the cattle for meat, there is the cattle for milk, and then even with that cattle, you also have different products that can come out from there. There is the leather. You could also have the 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 horns, which are being used for different things. Now, when you look at the demands of people, most people in Nigeria are still consuming a lot of meat. Red meat is still in very high consumption. So, do you need to rear cattle for you to be in that business? The answer is no. You could also be a middleman who buys the cattle, you have it slaughtered, portioned, and sold off to the final consumers. As a matter of fact, for any tech savvy person, you don't necessarily need to own a farm for you to operate, and you could even be wealthier. Yeah, you could. You could retain more money than those of us who are actually in the farm. Because for me, for example, coming back to poultry, I spend a ton of money feeding the birds. I spend a ton of money producing the eggs. And when these things come out of the farm, I have a couple of distributors who come to me to buy at farm gate price. When you purchase at farm gate price, the amount of money they sell to the final consumers, I don't. But there is a high chance that they could make more in terms of margins from that business than myself, who spent maybe 6 weeks to 8 weeks raising those birds. And I reckon it is the same for the cattle, it is the same for pigs. So to answer your question, what part of the value chain, it just depends on your interest. There are also some people who are by nature lovers of nurturing. So for such a person, getting those things at a very small, at a tender age and raising them is something that they want to do because of a passion to do that. They may not be interested in going around looking out for the customers who they will be supplying a little bits and pieces to, and then coming back, especially if you are dealing with some of the high-end stores that have credit policies that sometimes may not favor a small business. So then you now have people who have the capacity to shoulder that or to cushion the effect of such credit policy. So they could come off take from the farmer and take it to the final or the middleman or the final consumer, and they could deal with that process. So it really depends on your interest. It depends on what is motivating you into the space and what you're passionate about.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I picked a number of things
Thank you.
while you're responding to that question. I picked leather, I picked meat, horns, and what have you. I also know that there will be options around transportation of this produce from
Yeah.
certain areas, and logistics, they say, is everything. I also know that there may be things or opportunities around waste management. Do you secrete waste? Is it recyclable? And things like that. Can you speak particularly to these two areas, please?
Okay. All right. Thank you. In terms of, yes, there are other what you would call auxiliary services that accompany the agribusiness space. So you've talked about logistics. Logistics, I'll mention. You have the transportation, you have the storage, you have the value, the cold chain. And then with regards to waste management, yes, we have a couple of people doing zero waste agriculture because the the waste, so to speak, from animal husbandry could serve as manure. I think Dr. Amina mentioned that something about compost manure. There are a handful of people who are actively using their waste to do something else. For us on the farm, for example, every waste, the manure, the beg your pardon, the feces, the poop, it's sold to the local farmers who mix that up and use that to till the ground. The dead birds, when we lose them every now and then, we defeather them, we cook them a little bit, and we use that to feed our fish. And sometimes when we have a lot of manure, we could harvest the maggots that are coming out of the manure, and we use that to feed the fish. Now, with regards to logistics, there's another space out there. You see, we don't really have standard abattoirs in Nigeria. If they do exist, they are not well known because you will find that if you want to, the practice there is that you lift the chicken to check the weight, and when you're done with that, you agree with them. They take it somewhere around there, slaughter it, eviscerate, clean it, wash it, and they bring it back to you. So that is another space where people can play. I believe that. Sorry, so you're waving at me. I believe that if you are, if you also have a passion for that, that's another space you can play. There are cluster of farms around where you have a ton of farms within the same locality. For those of us in the FCT, most of the farms are situated around Kuje, Guagalada. Up till date, I honestly doubt that we have a standard abattoir that meets certain health specifications that can go around to the farms there to get their birds, to offtake them, to slaughter, to process within the highest standards of hygiene, and then take those birds out. What you may have is some private as a business saying have an abattoir where you have several farms coming to you for you to process their birds. That's also a space that people can play. I am not too familiar with waste management as a business, but I know that there are most of the waste from most of the waste, so to speak, from animal husbandry. They have a secondary use. They are also another style of agriculture or another aspect of agriculture.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Weston Ekutu. In fact, my mind is almost blown. And this abattoir in particular that you talked about struck a chord in me. I remember the first time I visited a meat shop abroad. I could not believe my eyes. Right there where I was, I think it was in the UK somewhere, I had already drawn up a proper abattoir business plan of some sort, to come back home and explore that. But I think after a few, maybe one or two, that went down the drain, and I lost interest in that. Abattoir management, or abattoir space, or abattoir provision, or whatever we may want to call it, is a very, very good niche. And every other day we go to the market to buy meat or some other not very tidy space meat shop, we we just lament, right? We are sad, we lament, but it ends there. So if there's someone who is not particularly, you don't feel like wearing a bowler hat and going to the farm, or visiting Nasarawa State and all of those areas that people have massive farmlands, you can also plug in this ecosystem in the area of visiting Nasarawa State and all of those areas that people have massive farmland. You can also plug in this system in the area. There is an echo back. There's an echo back. Okay. I believe you can hear me well now. Mr. Ekutu? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. So don't get tired of us. We just want to be able to glean and learn from you as much as possible this morning. And I hope that it is the same case with those who are watching us live now. And I'm hoping, in addition to that, that you're preparing your questions, and in no long period from now, would begin to request that you bring up your questions. The next thing, Mr. Winston Ekutu, that I would like for you to speak to would be the factors that are mitigating against the people who are already operating in this space, and what we can consider to be the pain points for current practitioners and the people who are likely to come into this space. What are the factors mitigating against? As we pull this way, these factors are pushing us this way. What are those factors?
I think one major, if I want to go into broiler production, a major mitigating factor is still the same old story, the smuggling of frozen food into the country. Because whether we like it or not, we still have those things finding their way into the Nigerian market. And as long as we have that, it will keep strangling the local producers. Because unfortunately, the cost of production in Nigeria is much higher than what you will find in some parts of Europe, where these things are grown in abundance, and South America. And these are places that these things come from. For us in the egg production business, another thing that seems to sometimes come to us as a disadvantage or sort of discouragement is the high cost of feed. And this we know is also directly related and directly linked to the degree of insecurity we have in areas where ideally we should have a large production of maize, or a large output of maize production, which is a major ingredient in feed formulation. Another ingredient is or are the premix, the vitamins, and all other minerals that are added to the feed. Some of these things are imported. And as we know, anything that is imported is also dependent on availability of foreign exchange. So one way or another, there is a link between what is happening in every other sector with the agricultural space. So these are some of the things that can sometimes be discouraging. But you see, the entrepreneurial journey is such that you come face to face with an obstacle, you can convert that, or you can build on that some resilience and go further. So as long as you are driven by something beyond profitability, you can remain. But I would not lie to you, the journey can sometimes be tough and sometimes be stressful. Outside of these factors, there are others. Farms are located in areas now that people are sometimes scared to go to. You can't remain in your farm till later than a certain period of time, especially if you're in parts of the country now that are considered to be flash or red zones. So these two can have an effect on the management, your ability to be present in the farm. Because agriculture is a business that requires presence. It's we have a lot of farms in the northern part or in this part of the country where I'm from, but the farm owners and the management structures are not particularly robust enough to carry an absentee management system. You have to be present. And to be present, you also have to deal with other factors that come with such presence. Security is one of them. Then the infrastructure, access to the farms. There are some farms that are located in areas where before you come out of that place with 200 crates of eggs, you may end up losing 2 or 3 because of the bumpy nature of the roads. So these are some of the challenges that we are currently facing within the space. And there are challenges that present within them opportunities that people can harness.
Thank you so much, Mr. Winston P. Ekotu. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Dr. Amina Ibrahim, we want you back here. Can you hear us?
Thank you.
Are you
Hello.
there, Doc? Yes, Doc.
I'm there. I'm there. Yeah.
Okay. So your connection is better now. We can hear both ways. Doctor,
Yes,
I would like to ask, what, in terms of human resources for your business, what has the experience been like? Do you have access to what we would call a quality pool of human resources for your business?
Yes. I can say yes, we have. Human resources, you train your staff, really. They don't have, once they're educated, they don't have to have the experience. You don't need their experience. You train them to the quality you want. You train them, you groom them to the best practices, because they have to now plug into your existing operation manuals. So when we're looking for workers, we only look for the qualifications in terms of education, being able to read and write. That's all. All other things you can train your staff to be. All human beings are capable of learning, and if you have the process and the system in place to train your staff, then you always have them. And then those that cannot fit into your system, you let them go, and then the system is there, the procedures are there in the operation manuals, and anybody you bring in, they just plug in and learn from that, what you have already on ground. So it's actually not the people, is our own system is system dependent rather than people dependent, also. And workers, Nigeria, we have abundant labor, many unemployed Nigerians, graduates, school leavers, they abound in Nigeria, and actually they are also affordable. I could say.
Okay. Thank you so much for your response there, Doctor. That was the B component of my question. So now to the A component of my question. Some
Okay.
businesses or some industries require that the founders, the owners, or the leaders of those organizations or those businesses have certain qualifications to go into the business of animal husbandry in Nigeria in particular. Do I need to have like a PhD? Do I need to be a doctor? Do I need to have a master's, a BSc, a bachelor's degree before I venture into that space as the leader of the organization now?
I am a chemical engineer by trade.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
So I have
So,
nothing to do with agriculture.
brilliant. Really also, I think that we have Dr. Curtis there. So you can just go on and speak to
Hello.
that. Like,
Hello. Oh, okay. I'm back. Oh,
yes, yes. Okay. Doctor, did you hear our
I didn't hear because can you come again with the question?
brilliant? So we can just have Mr. Ikutu take that up and then I'll come back to you. So, Mr. Ikutu, can you please speak to that? Are there any qualifications that someone who has interest in entering, or in coming
Well, to be
into
honest,
this space have? The internet. Can we speak to Mr. Ikutu? We lost you there temporarily. Okay, now you've gone off the room completely. Now, doctor, what I was saying was this: as someone who has interest in going into the business of animal husbandry in Nigeria, if you take the example of maybe estate evaluators or estate management or whatever, medicine, the practice of medicine, pharmacy, the owners or the founders of these businesses are expected to have perhaps them or on their boards certain qualifications. What is the case in the business of animal husbandry in Nigeria? Do I need to be a vet doctor to set up a livestock animal business or animal husbandry business? I beg your pardon. Do I need to have certain qualifications to go into that business? That's the question.
Okay.
Doctor, there.
Well,
Yes.
as a business person, you need to study. You need to keep abreast of your industry, but you don't have to have a special qualification. You can always hire those qualifications to work for you. You could have the vet doctors and the specialists in their field. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
I am an economist. I studied the BSc economics. So I have no linkage to veterinary or anything. I'm a business person and I can always hire those qualifications to work for me. So in their respective fields, of course, I have to have a broad knowledge of what I'm going into and have to know about it and study every day, so certain time. So you have a lifelong study thing online, but you don't have to be in that particular field to dive into that business. I'm coming from the business aspect of the value chain now.
Thank you so much. So, listeners, this morning, if you're here and you're listening to us, please know that you be a doctor. You don't have to have a master's to come into into the business of animal husbandry in Nigeria. Come as you are, especially if you have, the business acumen, and you can always hire the specialists with respect to veterinary doctors and what have you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ibrahim. Doctor, my next question will be around the area of finance. How has it been? Do you have, what access do we have to finance? Particular, and are you able to share with us regarding finance options in this industry, or at least in this niche of business?
Okay, yeah, you have to have a source of finance. For starting from the little money you have, your personal funds, you start with that. I particularly started with the little money I have. I didn't start big. I started with as little as 10,000 naira at that time. That was in 2004. And as you patriate back the money into the business, and then when the one I have is not enough, I have immediate family members who supported. And after that, when it's beyond the family members, I went to the banks. Sources of finance, those are the finance. For me, the personal, the real.
Okay. Doctor's network is a bit glitchy there. Thank you so much, Dr. Zana Ibrahim. Unfortunately, we had to, or rather, the internet just, pushed you out of the room. While we wait for you to come back, we thank you for your comments thus far. And we welcome Mr. Ekutu back into the room. Welcome, Mr. Winston Ekutu. What I would consider to be my last question to you directly this morning will be in the area of best practice. What are the things that ethically, someone operating within this industry or within this niche should consider? What is best practice?
Okay, thank you very much, and sorry to the viewers for the break in transmission. I pride myself as someone who is involved in ethical food production, and I pay particular interest personally to medication. We are operating in a sector that is largely unregulated. And I say that with a degree of responsibility. What do I mean by unregulated? I think since I started operating my farm, I don't think that I have had an inspector from any government agency coming to see the kind of medications we're using and whether we are obeying the withdrawal periods of the medications and all that. So that is to say that anybody can raise birds, use the medications that he or she deems fit. And sometimes these medications have adverse effects on the human beings. One which is very, very common is the use of antibiotics. Now you will find that some people, maybe the birds are looking ill and they start medicating them with antibiotics. And they see that the birds are not responding to treatment, and the next thing is we're going to slaughter these birds and send them to the market. Now, every medication has what it's called the withdrawal period, which means that that particular bird or that particular animal should not be consumed as meat until maybe 4 days after the last medication. So the withdrawal period is 4 days, in some cases 1 week, in some cases 2 weeks. If you slaughter that animal before that stipulated period has elapsed, what it means is that that animal will have a residual amount of that medication, which whoever consumes that meat or that product will also be consuming that medication. And so you find that people are every now and again building resistance to antibiotics. So they are taking it when they are ill and they are not getting, there's no commensurate response to that treatment. And the doctor will say you've built resistance to it, unknown to you, and you're saying I've not taken antibiotics in 1 year, but unknown to you that you have been a secondary consumer of antibiotics. So that is one major area that people, I want to implore people to pay attention to. With regards to keeping your own business profitable, adopt good agronomic practices, maintain a high level of biosecurity in your farm. Most importantly, get an insurance policy on your animals, your birds, or your cows. There are insurance firms out there who are there to help you so that in an event of any outbreak or any catastrophe, you are not left to start from ground zero. You would have a launch pad to begin with. So off the top of my head, these are the things that I can speak to with regards to ethical production.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Although I'm smiling now, but at some point I wasn't smiling when you were speaking. I couldn't believe for the life of me that we're at the mercy of these farmers. My goodness. Thank you so much. Thank you. Because it just takes one person who is not very inclined to keeping ethics to dole out birds that are fit for consumption, even what you explained, Paddy. No, yes, the injectables and all of that. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. You've been really, really wonderful on this panel this morning. I think that we are ready to take questions from participants now, from viewers all around the globe. Can we begin to have your questions come in, ladies and gentlemen? But in the meantime, let's go on a short break and we'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It has been a full, long hour. We're back now. Welcome. So do we have any questions yet? Questions? Is there anyone who wants to ask a question? Okay, we have one here from Mr. Ugu. And the question goes thus. What is the best alternative for someone who is not physically present in Nigeria, but has the capacity to run a poultry/piggery business, with consideration to the security of the animal against theft? So this particular question, I would like Mr. Ekutu to answer. Thank you so much. Mr. Ekutu, did you get the question?
Thank you very much. Yes, I did. I think what I would even want to clarify, or what one would want to ask, is when you talk about the capacity to run, capacity in what sense? In terms of resources or in terms of experience? In terms of resources, where you have money, and then you have the passion. My advice would be that you don't start off something whilst you are not in the country. You may want to consider investing in an existing one where and then conduct your due diligence to see, because there are people some sort of capital injection or partnership to scale up. So that could be a better option for you if you're not present. And I know, yes, there are so many reasons why and so many things around partnerships and investments. That's why I've said due diligence. So that you don't just go sinking your money to someone that will disappear. Now, with regards to, and all of that will be contained, because when you go through that due diligence process, then you can guard against theft using what I've mentioned, insurance, and also getting a place that is well secured. Now, if and with your capital, with your experience, with your passion, you can be part of such a business. That, in my view, is better off than staying there and getting someone here to start a farm for you on your behalf when you're still there and you're just sending money. You may come back and be surprised at what you find. It's highly likely, but something that is already running, because it's one thing to have the capacity, another thing to have the local knowledge. It's one thing to have the capacity, another thing to have the local knowledge. So getting someone who has a track record, or a firm who has a track record and they're currently running something, it means that they have a degree of local knowledge around that industry. So with your capital, with your experience, with your injection, you can solve. That is my view.
Thank you so much for that very beautiful,
Over to you, Simon.
beautiful response to that question. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Mr. Ikutu. Next question here we have coming from Adeyeye Abbas. First says, thank you. Can organic compounds replace the regular vaccination of Can organic compounds replace the regular vaccination of animals? Dr. Zana, can you hear us?
Hello.
I honestly cannot speak to that because I'm not a qualified veterinary doctor. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So you can go on, Mr. Ikutu.
Okay, I honestly cannot speak to that because I'm not a qualified veterinary doctor and I have not explored organic compounds in place of the medical vaccinations. So I wouldn't want to speak to what I've not tried. I know that there are people who have told me that they've used, for example, with poultry, they've used things like garlic, pepper, and a few other spices to maintain their birds for a long period of time. I cannot speak to whether that can be done in very large scale, in a commercial scale. So for now, I would advise anybody to use the regular medication that has been prescribed by the Veterinary Association, but do that with medical advice, with moderation, and within the confines of ethics.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was on that, or I was unsure if I had finished or not. Thank you so much. Dr. Ibrahim.
Yeah.
You can hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. We're happy to have you back. Okay, so we're also ready for the next question. Any other question? From the same participant, and he says, how can we source for funds for our animal husbandry in the area of meat production? Again, we can have Doctor speak to this. Doctor, this person is asking, how can we source funds for meat production?
Okay. Number one source of funds I cite is the personal savings. If you have your personal savings and investment, you can put it in this business. The other way is to you or join in partnership with you. And the third way is to go to the banks. Of course, going to the banks requires you to have a bankable business plan. You have to have a records, the business records, and of course you are tracked from the banks too. Your deposits have to qualify you for the loan if you have to go through the banks. And then the other option is also to look for investors.
Doctor, nothing from the government?
Well, the government goes through the banks. If government wants to fund your business, it has to go through the bank. I don't see government giving money, dashing money just to anybody. You have to go through the bank, like the central bank, and there's this Exim Bank. Those are development finance banks for developing industries. So you could go through them, but it has to start from your commercial bank. You have to have a banking record with your commercial banks and use your commercial bank to access those funds for you. They are government funds, but you have to also, there's certain percentage, maybe 9 to 15 charge and other things. So it's not entirely free, even the government funds, and you have to go through your commercial banks.
Okay. And I'm sure including the Bank of Agriculture. If it's
yes, Bank of Agriculture, Bank of Industry, Bank of Development Bank of Nigeria, many of them. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for that very succinct response there. Thank you. Begin to round up, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have any other questions? It has been a really, really lovely time of exploring this topic, ranging from the triggers that led business owners around to set up their business. We've covered things like profitability. We've covered things like best practices, finance options, other options in the value chain, as well as factors that mitigate against operations within this niche. We also looked at entry options and what people can do in the entire ecosystem from end to end. I saw a question flash here just now. Can you please bring it back? Okay, Ismaila Yusuf says, thank you very much for this wonderful moment. Thank you too, Ismaila, and you're welcome. His question, however, is to Mr. Ekutu. As a beginner, what are the factors to be considered when you're starting poultry farming and favorable conditions to start? Mr. Ekutu, again, what are the factors to be considered when starting poultry farming and what are the favorable conditions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that we can hear me.
Yes.
When starting a poultry farm, you want to be sure that you have the market, like any other business, that you have the right market and that you have where you're going to sell your eggs. If you're going to sell eggs to the Mishais, you already have them, because you don't want to start producing and then you find that you have a lot of eggs and you don't know where to sell them to. These things are highly perishable. When it comes to the broilers as well, you want to be sure that you have the market, because after 6 to 7 weeks, or when they attain a weight of 2.3 kg live weight, they are due for market from 2 kg to 2.3. You keep feeding them to 2.5. At some point, you just keep feeding and you start eating to your profits. And then you also want to consider, if you're going to do egg production, you know that it's going to take a while. If you're starting the brooding process yourself, you will need to raise those birds for at least 5 months, before they start giving you eggs on the 18th week. Maybe before they get into some degree of stability in terms of production, you're looking at the 6th to the 7th month before they will be able to pay you back or to start feeding themselves. So in terms of capital, it is going to be heavy. So you want to make sure that you have sorted out your market and then you have the right funding source. Because you don't want to just go take a loan from the bank to start brooding birds for egg production. If the interest starts reading from the first month, it means that you may not even be in a good space to pay back that loan from that particular business endeavor. So another thing you also want to look at is the space that you have. These animals are extremely sensitive creatures. So when it comes to space, it's not something to joke with. You need to be sure that you have the right spacing for the birds so that they can express themselves and grow. You also need to be sure that the place is well ventilated, there is airflow, because if you are in an area that is prone to extreme temperatures, you may likely suffer high mortality if those temperatures are not controlled. So you want to be sure of that. Another thing you want to be sure that you're not too close to any other farm, because if there is an outbreak in that farm, it can easily come into your own farm. So it is very, very advisable. It's best for you to consult with somebody who is already running a farm so that they are with you from the day you start building your pen. Because if you don't have an expert or you don't have an experienced person with you, you may also construct a pen or a pen house that is inhabited by any bird. So these are the things that I want
you so much
to recommend that you pay attention to.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ekutu. Thank you so much for that very brilliant response. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we would have continued to take questions from the public. What we have to close is been a really awesome 1+ hours interacting with you and gleaning from our experts. Mr. Ekutu has been brilliant, and Dr. Ibrahim has surmounted the challenges of connectivity and also giving us incredible insight. Thank you so much, I must say, ladies and gentlemen, for teaching us and feeding us this morning. As I close, as we begin to wrap this up and close this session, I would say, like the words of the wise, the best time to plant a tree was over 20 years ago, and the next best time to plant that tree is today. If you have been dilly-dallying around the issue of beginning business in the area of animal husbandry, the right time to begin is today. Do not wait any longer. We have explored so many areas, and now you have all of those myths demystified by experts who have been in this practice for a couple of years. Dr. Zana, 18+ years, and Mr. Ekutu going on over 10 years. Thank you so much for being a fantastic audience. We do apologize for the network interruptions that we experienced throughout today, and we're hoping that by the next session, we would have the blessings of the internet and it will be more stable than what we experienced this morning. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best. Bye now.
There's a story to be told, a future to behold. There is more to who we are than what they hear. We have love within our soul, fire in our bones. We've got everything it takes to make it here. There's much more within our soil, more than just our oil. We can grow the food to feed the whole world square. Agriculture is the key. there's treasure in the trees. The time is now, the land is green, wealth is here. This is our nation, this is our land. Nigeria is ours, we have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, wealth is here. There are 200 billion dreams. Any one of these is able to begin a spark and change the world. There's innovation everywhere, from Abba to Ife to Kaduna. The land is green, the wealth is here. Yeah, this is our nation, this is our land. Yeah. Nigeria is ours, we have everything we need. If we could only see, the time is now, the land is green, the wealth is here.
If you take a look around from the north to south, there are opportunities to make it. Yeah.